everyone, this is my rotation exercise, and I'm going to be doing Russian twists. So the first thing is, I guess, the feet placement, not being too straight, and just kind of having it when your knees are flexing and bent. And when you're doing it, making sure that your back is nice and straight and not rounded out, and you're kind of hunched in, keeping your chest in. Make sure your chest is just nice and out, helps keep the back straight. And then making sure that when you do it, you really extend on each side and just going as far as you possibly can. And then next you can lift your legs up. Just do the same, making sure that you go as far as you can. And then adding in a weight will be the next level. Can be this or any other weighted thing. So again, try to go as far as you can on each side, really twisting your torso and just making sure that everything is at the same speed. When you do these exercises, you're going to be working your abs, your obliques, hip flexors, and then also your quads and your hammies and your glutes are going to be helping that as the synergists. Yeah. And then the other thing is when you're doing the exercise, you don't want your knees to be flopping around and going everywhere, making sure that they're tied together and just restricting that movement of your legs so they're nice and still and not. Another safety tip that you can use, when you're doing it, you want to make sure that your back is straight as possible and not rounding, just to help protect the lower back and prevent any future injuries while you do the Russian twist. The Russian twist is a compound movement that uses spinal and hip joints, and the obliques contract concentrically and eccentrically while core stabilizers work isometrically to maintain the posture. Hey guys, this is my client Harry. Say hi. And I'm going to be teaching him or coaching him through a Russian twist and just showing him, I guess, the proper movement. So I guess the first thing I want him to do is just set his legs out, making sure that they're not too straight or too inside, making sure that they're an even, kind of in between the two. Starting to lean back just a little bit, but keeping his feet on the floor and just slowly rotating. And I think based off this first one, his arms are a little bit loose, and maybe his hips as well, so he needs to kind of try and keep them in and making sure that rotation is locked in and not flapping around everywhere. And then that looks pretty good to me. So I guess the next evolution would be just for him to lift his feet up, just to make that a little bit harder and try and perform that same exercise. And then the problem here, his legs, they're kind of flapping about. So for him, it would be getting his knees nice and tight together, locked in, and making sure that the rotation and the movement between of his legs aren't flapping around and trying to keep that movement very minimal. And then the other one would be for him to grab the medicine ball here and perform the same exercise, but obviously it's a bit harder. And the main thing would be for him to lift his feet here to perform the true Russian exercise. Right, and the problem with that for Harry, he was keeping his chest quite locked in, caved in, which meant that his back was starting to round out, and that could be a potential injury. So for me, Harry needs to bring his chest out a bit more, which will help flatten his back and prevent that injury, and making sure that the Russian twist is done correct. Cheers, Harry.
What?
Hey everyone. This is going to be my lower body exercise, and I'm going to be doing lunges. So with a lunge, the main muscles that you're going to be working, quads, hammies, your glutes, and then with your synergist, you're going to be working your calves, and maybe your feet, maybe your abs, depending on, I guess, if you've got weight especially, that would engage them. When you are doing a lunge, you kind of want to keep your legs, I guess, hip width apart as you're just standing nice and tall. When you go down, placing one leg in front, and then making sure that your back leg still stays on the ground and bending down and hoping that your knee and your leg stay at 90 degrees in the front leg as well as the back leg when you're up. And a big thing with lunges is making sure that your knee doesn't bend over the toes, as that can just put extra strain and it gets more pressure on the knee, and that can lead to further injuries. Just making sure that it's in line as much as you can with the ankle will help not only keep it at 90 degrees but prevent that injury from happening. So you're up, making sure that your knee doesn't touch the ground, your back leg, and you step back up. And that's your lunge. With joint movements, you're going to be having hip flexion as you're going down. You're going to be having knee flexion, obviously as you're bending your knee, wanting to get that 90-degree angle as much as possible. And also dorsiflexion as you go down.
Dorsiflexion.
It's dorsiflexion, there you go. It's dorsiflexion as you go down, as you're trying to prevent that knee from getting further so your foot compensates. And the other thing for tempo-wise, when you're going down, so in the eccentric phase, you're going to go nice and slow, just help pull those muscles and get them used, and then as you step up in the concentric phase, just nice and fast.
The lunge is a compound exercise because it involves multiple movement at the multiple joints, which is primarily the hip, knee, and ankle, and it works several muscle groups at once, which is the quadriceps, the glutes, the hamstrings, and the calves.
Hey guys, this is my client Harry here. Today I'm going to be coaching him through a lunge and just getting the proper technique for him. So the first thing I want Harry here to do is just show me how he would typically do a lunge, just so I can see if there's anything that I would need to change. Okay, and up. So the first thing, there's a couple. I think pretty noticeably his front leg, his knee came way over his toes. Obviously just not ideal, putting that extra pressure on his knee. So just making sure that he brings it back behind his toes, and even better, just in line with his ankle to help get that 90-degree angle for him. The other thing was his back leg, probably a little bit too far out and not particularly within that close to 90-degree range. So ideally, you would want both 90-degree on both legs. So if you want to try that again. A little bit better. I think that time his back leg might have been too close to his front leg. So maybe if you want to try that one more time for me. Much better. And also, what was good there is he made sure that he was looking up at his chest, not kind of hunched in with the rolled back. Just making sure that that back doesn't get injured, and looking forward and helping that balance a bit straighter. Just much better and good.
Very good, thank you. Whoop bang! Whoop bang!
Hey everyone, we're back, and today we're doing low rows on the machine. I'm just going to be kind of showing you how to do it. So the first thing that I would do is grab your handle and then place your feet on the foot placement that is there for you. And make sure when you're sitting, you're not too close forward, too far back. Just have a good kind of distance. And then pull the weight out. Making sure that your back is straight, not hunched over, chest in. Chest out, nice and straight, and you just pull it right into your stomach, and then go again, pull again, and making sure when you do it, the elbows aren't kind of flaring out, just kind of staying nice and tucked into the body, holding for a second, and then go, and keeping that same tempo throughout. When you do it, the agonist muscles are mostly in your lats, with synergist muscles being a bit of bicep, bit of lower back, bit of traps. Joint movements, you're going to be having shoulder hyperextension, because as you're doing it, you're pulling your shoulder backwards, and you're obviously be having elbow flexion because you're flexing your elbow. Yeah. Point is that you can change your attachment or handle, so it's a bit more for a close grip. If you wanted to, for a bit of a wider grip, depending on preference on the muscles you wanted to focus, you can change it. Yeah, a safety tip that you can use when you're pulling, making sure that you don't snap back too fast, making sure your back is just straight throughout and not around. Cause extra tension that might put any potential damage on.
Shoulder.
The low row is a compound exercise that works the lats, traps, rhomboids, biceps, and rear delts, and these contract concentrically while pulling, and when you return, it's eccentrically through the shoulder and elbow movement.
Hey guys.
Today I'm going to be coaching him through the low row exercise, which is, improving his technique and making sure he does everything correct. So the first thing I'm going to get him to do is just sit down for me. So the first thing I'm going to do is simply get him to grab the handle and then place his feet on the foot placement here, and then slowly pull back. And I just want to see him do it and see what needs to be changed. Alright. First one there for Harry. His back's very hunched in, his chest, very hunched in as well. What he needs to do here is just puff it out a little bit, and that back is going a lot straighter, so it means preventing that potential injury. See that again there? Alright, that's good. Obviously, the other problem there was his tempo. He's really forcing it to go super fast, kind of just letting the weight do the pull and push for him. So when he is going down, let it go and then bring it forward and let the weight drag. The only other problem that he started doing here is he stopped keeping his back straight and he's leaning too far back. So they're just kind of bringing the two together, keeping the back straight, and the tempo is doing good even Thank you, Harry. We are here for my push exercise. We're doing tricep push downs. First, I'm just kind of go through the technique of how it works. The first thing is you want to get a grip of your handles, get comfortable, and then standing, not too close towards the machine here, and not too far away, just kind of back in between, and a good spot. Start to pull that weight down a little, making sure that when you do it, your elbows are nice and tucked in, not flaring out, and just pushing down, as so. And making sure that you don't hunch over and keeping your shoulders in tight, being out, chest out, and making sure that's all sweet. Muscles used as an isolation exercise, you're only going to be mainly working your triceps. For joint movements, we're going to be doing elbow extension, as you're coming down from flexion to extension, and that's everything. And also the concentric and eccentric wise, the tempo, when you're pulling down, you're in the concentric phase, and as you're pulling up, you're in the eccentric phase. Just make sure when you push down, you really push down, slowly start to come up and then push down again. My client Harry here yet again, say hi.
Hey guys.
Hey. So today I'm going to be coaching him through some tricep push downs and just kind of make sure his technique is correct and everything. First thing I'm going to get him to do is just stand in front of the machine and grab the bars that are there. And first off, I'm going to just get him to do what he thinks would be correct. Awesome. First problem there is what has him here. He's a bit too far away from the machine. So if you can just take maybe one, maybe two steps a bit closer to making sure that he's not too close, also not too far. You can just try that again for me, please. And the only other problem here is elbows aren't quite locked in, so he's kind of flaring out, pushing out a bit too far. So as he pulls down, making sure that his arms and elbows are locked into his body, and slowly pushing down. And the only other thing here that I'm going to give to him is his knees probably need to bend just a little bit instead of being so flat, because that helps him hinge down a bit further, it makes the exercise a little bit easier. Sweet. That is everything. Thank you, Harry.